Hey guys, welcome back to CheatSheetPros.com, your source for player props, sports betting, and daily fantasy information. Like we said before, we're ramping up the YouTube videos in 2022, so make sure to subscribe below to get the latest video. And if you'd like to try these cheat sheets for free on Thursday, our Facebook group link is in the description. So today we're going to go ahead and get started with our player props. It is Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022. We had a pretty good night last night. I had one guy that killed me a little bit, but he injured himself, so not a huge deal. So as always, to get started with player props, we open up our NBA cheat sheet that's used for daily fantasy sports, sports betting, and player props. Specifically on player props, I like using the props tab, and I like using the last 7 tab. And again, just to recap what we're doing, we're looking at daily projections versus the last 7 and last 15-day averages for the players. So you can see the highlighted players in green. So typically when I open up this sheet, I go to points, rebounds, assists. I sort this largest to smallest. And then I start going down the list. I scratch off these players like Ish. He's averaged 27.3 minutes. He's only projected for 5. We're going to cross him off. And I'm looking at these players that have 25, 30, 35 plus minutes played and projected. So putting him right here, this is a telltale sign. If a player is going to play the same amount of minutes, or if he's projected to play more minutes, then you can expect those stats to increase. There's also the games played over here. If it's only one game, you got to be careful and really look at the game logs. I prefer 2 to 3 games to really dig in and take a look at it. So what I do is I go through these. You can see I highlighted some players in green, and I'm going to show you what jumps out at me, and then we're going to go look at the game logs for these each individual players. As always, the screenshot that I post, I put my top 5 to 7 plays on it, and you can see it right here. Let me go ahead and blow it up so I can show everybody my favorite plays for the slate. So right now we're going to do Joel Embiid over 31.5 points. It's hard to argue. He's been over this number in 7 of the last 8 games, and he's the main scorer for Philadelphia. Franz Wagner over 15.5 points. He has 5 games over this number. 22, 18, 24, 21, and 18, so that's a solid play. John Morant, 27.5 points. I'm surprised this isn't 30.5. It should be higher. He has 7 straight games over this number, and not just over 27.5, but over 30 points. Well, 30 or more points. One of those games was 30. Tyrese Maxey over 5 assists. I love the 5.0 number. At 5.5, it becomes a little bit more risky, but at 5, we get that push, and then at 4, that's what would kill us. But over the last 5 games, he's got 8, 7, 10, 5, and 6. And I mean, who better than assist for Maxey to throw it down to Embiid all day? I mean, to do that 5 times seems like a no-brainer. That's one of my favorite plays on the slate. And then Karis LeVert under 37 prize pick fantasy points. I typically don't do a lot with the fantasy points, but looking around, a lot of the unders were popping for Karis LeVert, and the one he gets the furthest under was the prize pick points. And so Orlando's a tough matchup. Over the last 10 days, they're the second or third toughest to his position, and they don't allow a lot of fantasy points just in general. They play slow. They don't score a lot of points. So with LeVert averaging 27.5 fantasy points over the last 5 games, I'm definitely going to go under 37. And I typically don't do a lot of unders, but this is one I'm going to take a shot on tonight. He's got 34, 21, 26, 22, and 34 fantasy points over the last 5 games. So he's been trending under that number. And then some of the tier 2 players that I like that you can see down here on the bottom. Let me put it right here. I like it shrunk on me. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I like the Cole Anthony over 6 assists. It's always a risk taking an Orlando player. Orlando or Detroit seem to be the 2 teams that can score 85 points and kill you. But he's got 9, 6, 9, and 11 over his last 4 games, and he's playing 30-plus minutes in all of those. And over the last 2 weeks, Indy is a top matchup for point guard shooting guards, so he should have plenty of opportunities to hit this number. The reason he fell to a tier 2 play is just simply because it's an Orlando player, and there's a lot of risk with them. Mason Plumlee over 7.5 rebounds. He fell into the tier 2 play because he has some games where he plays 18, 19 minutes, and some games where he plays 30, 35 minutes. But over his last 5, he's had 9, 11, 4, 9, and 11 rebounds, putting him over this number in 4 of the last 5. And Boston is a tougher matchup, but they did play Boston on 119, and he played 28 minutes and had 10 boards, so I do like the play. So that's what I'm looking at for my favorite plays right now. But I'm going to go ahead in this video, and we're going to flip through some logs. I'm going to show you a whole bunch of plays. I'm not going to waste time going back and forth between the cheat sheet and the game logs. I'm just going to go right through Prize Picks, click, show you the logs, the ones that jumped out at me. But when I'm on here and I do this, I'm looking at ones that jump out. So we discussed Mason Plumlee. We're going to look at Dort. We're going to look at Porter. For Porter, his points difference jumped out and his assist, which made his PRA number show. John Morant, it's basically points. These numbers don't really change a lot. He's a pure scorer. Wood, he jumped out. Rebounds, I liked what I saw with him. Maxey, when we were looking at him, you can see here the big difference in assist. So he's projected at 5.5, and he's putting up 8.3, so that had me dig into him a little bit. And then once you go through these, all of these categories, I sort the differ high to low, and I go through and look because they'll show different players. Like Fournier, he's projected at 12.1 points, and he's putting up 21. So he's someone that I looked into. Morant, we talked about. Porter, 11.3, he's putting up 17. Talked about him. Kyrie Irving, 25.8 to 29. It's a chunk amount, but, I mean, he's the primary ball handler for Brooklyn, so he's pretty consistent. Embiid, not a big difference there, but he's consistent looking in his game logs. And then once I get done with points, I flip over here to rebounds and do the same thing. And so Plumlee's the one that jumped out at me. This is where I found him. He's projected 8.5 rebounds. He's averaging 13.5, so that's a difference of 5 rebounds. So that's how I found him, by going in, looking at the game logs. Giddey's another one. Christian Wood was one that popped up that I looked at. But this is kind of how I dig through stuff on the cheat sheet, and I'll go through and highlight the green, and then I'll flip back through and take a look at the game logs. So let's go ahead and bounce over here to Prize Picks. I'm going to see, I don't know if it'll let me get this any bigger for you. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at some different players. So we're going to start off at the points, rebounds, assists, and I'm going to show you some guys I like. And I have a lot of players that we're going to go over. So like we discussed, the Caris LeVert for, well, let me throw that. Caris LeVert under points, rebounds, assist is one that jumped out at me. And the reason is, look at this. He's been under it in 4 of last 5. He's averaging 24.8 PRA, so he's, almost 10 points under that. So I like this under, or the fantasy points, either one. I think they're both solid. I just chose to go with the under in fantasy points tonight. And then Plumlee, over 17.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I like that one. So you can see he's been over this number in 4 of 5. He's averaging about 23. But what's impressive, he's coming off of a game of 24 and 31, and his number's only 17.5, so I like that. And then he had a game on the 25th where he put up 24, and the one game that he did miss, he missed it by the hook, by 0.5. So I like him to go over on PRA. He was one that jumped out at me on the sheet. Christian Wood's another one. I don't mind him. There is a little bit of risk with him, but you can see that he is going over this number on a consistent basis. Let me bring this down a little bit. Okay. So you can see he's averaging 34 over the last 5. So he's got 39 and 39 in back-to-back games, followed up by a 38. So he missed it once against the Spurs. I didn't dig into the game a whole lot. He's just someone that popped. I don't have any of him right now, but if you do like Wood and he was on your list and you were thinking about it, I just wanted to give you enough to kind of put it over the edge. The next one is Dort, PRA, over 23.5. I really did like this one. Over the last 3 games, he's put up 27, 39, and 25, and he's at 23.5, so I don't mind it against Dallas. This should be a somewhat decent game for him to get in there and get a lot of those rebounds and assists to go over. But again, OKC, Detroit, and Orlando players do carry some risk, but he's been hot recently. So now we're going to jump over. We're going to take a look at points. Points are my favorite props just because there's no mess up on scoring, who did what. You either scored the basket or you didn't. Like we said, Embiid going over. You can see he's pretty consistent. He did miss at 1 game, but he's been over in 7 of 8. So I don't mind that. Going up against Washington, there is not a lot of people that are going to shut him down. LeVert, again, under 20.5 points. 17, 14, 10, 10, 19. He's been under it. He's averaging 14 points a game. So I like any Levert under right now. Franz Wagner, he was one of the favorite plays that we had. Let's show you what his game logs look like. Looks solid. He's been over this in 5 straight, 20.6 average. His number's only 15.5. And his most recent games, 3 of the last 4, he's 21 or more. 22, 24, and 21 points in 3 of the last 4. So I feel like 15.5 is a gift. So he's definitely someone I've got locked in already tonight. Plumlee, I don't mind his points if you want to go somewhere small. 6.5 is a small number. He doesn't go over it by much, though. He's got 10, 8, 7, and 12 over the last 4 games. So he's kind of over that number, but really, I mean, in a game that could score 220, 230 points, for him to get 7, that almost seems like a no-brainer. So I like that one if you're looking for a low number. Morant is someone that we had talked about. Where did he go? There, and I'm shocked this is 27.5 still. It should be 30.5 would be an accurate number. So looking at him, 27.5 is a no-brainer. He's been over that in, I don't even know how many games, but 37, 34, 30, 41, and 35. I mean, he's not barely going over. He is crushing this. So he's over by almost 10, 7, squeaked over, more than 10, more than 7. So averaging 35.4, and his numbers at 27.5, that seems like a no-brainer. Yeah, he's going to miss that some games. The Knicks are a semi-tough matchup, but he's a pure scorer. He's one of my favorite plays tonight. Anyone that's consistent until they miss that number 2 or 3 games in a row, I'm always going to go right back to him. And then Fournier, we had talked about. He popped up on the sheet. 13.5 points is a small number. In the last 2 games, he's had 18 and 25 points. So that's someone that I don't mind taking a shot on, especially with the action in the last 2 games. And I mean, he's a shooter. So he's got 25, 35, 43 points in 2 games, and we need him to get 14 tonight against the Knicks. Yeah, take a shot on that. Don't mind that at all. And then moving on, we have Kevin Porter. Sorry I'm running through these kind of quick. I've got a lot of plays I want to show you that I was kind of excited for that jumped out at me. So Kevin Porter over 14.5 points. I don't mind. He's been over it in 5 straight. He's averaging 17.6. Now, there is some risk here because it's a Houston player. It's going up against Cleveland, which isn't a prime matchup. And then he's not crushing the number. He's barely sliding over it. So we need him to get 15, and he's at 17, 16, 17, 15, 23. So I like it, but I don't love it. I don't have any of it, but if you're into Houston, Cleveland, and you want to watch that game, that's the player that I would go with. And we can't argue with Kyrie, points 25.5. I thought the number was high, but he's consistently 26, 32, 30, 24, 30, over it in 4 of the last 5, and the one he did miss was by 1.5. And it's going up against Sacramento. That is the dream spot. They play no defense. They score a ton of points. I love him to go over this number. That was going to be another tier 2 play that I put in, but I was running out of room on my sheet. Now we're going to go ahead and we are going to flip over to assists. Taking a look at assists, these are one of my favorite props to play, and one of my favorite ones that we discussed was Tyrese Maxey over 5 assists. So taking a look at him, he's been over this in 4 of the last 5 with 1 push. Like we said, we do love the 5.0 because that gives us a push. So he really needs 4 for us to lose, and I don't think that is going to happen. He's been over that so consistently with 8, 7, and 10 over the last 3 games. And I mean, the only thing he has to do is throw it down to Embiid and let him go in and dunk it or do a layup, and he gets an assist. So 5 seems like a no-brainer number. I love that play tonight. That's one that I do have locked in. The secondary play we discussed was Cole Anthony assist over 6. So he's been over this in 3 of the last 4 with a push. He's got 9, 6, 9, and 11. What I like about this is he is significantly going over this number. So the 11, he almost doubled it, and the 9, he's 50% more over that number. So I do like that, but again, Orlando players do come with some risk, but he is someone I don't mind taking a shot on this evening. Going on to the next one, Luka. I'm not going to bet this one, but I don't mind going over 9.5 assists just because Luka is one of the primary ball handlers. He's going to be involved in everything. He's been over it in 3 straight, 11, 12, 15. He's got the ability to get way over this number, but he also has the ability, as we saw against Golden State and Memphis, to go under the number. It's a big number to hit, but if you love Dallas and Luka, I don't mind jumping on that one. I would take the assist over any of the other numbers. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump over here to rebounds. Let me close that. So when we're taking a look at rebounds, one that jumped out at me was Franz Wagner. So I saw this 4.5 rebounds, and I was kind of wondering, like, oh yeah, that'd be an easy number to get over. Well, I started looking into it. He's averaging 2.8 per game. He's been under this in 5 straight, so he's had 2, 2, 3, 3, and 4. So I like under 4.5 rebounds tonight if you want to get some Orlando action in there. And then moving on, Plum Lee, we talked about him. He was our secondary play, over 7.5 rebounds. I'll show you what he looks like. Over in 4 of the last 5, but I really like the 27 in the last 2 games against the Clippers and the Lakers. So that's significant. So he's about 25% over this just on an average. So he's someone that we did like as a secondary play, but we did make it a secondary play just due to the amount of minutes that he is on the floor. The next one is Christian Wood, 10.5 rebounds. He's been over this number in 4 of 5, and what I really like is he's getting a significant amount with 13, 15, 15, 15. He's well over this number, so if you want to get some Houston action tonight, I don't mind Christian Wood going over. 11 rebounds seems very obtainable that he's done several times this season. And then the last one I want to show you is the Karis LeVert fantasy points. So let me find fantasy score. So this is one of my other favorite plays. This is probably going to be the 5th leg on my main Prize Picks card tonight. And then you can see here, he's been significantly under this in 3 games. The 5th game ago and last game, he's almost got there. And if he does, that's fine. I'll take a loss. But Orlando, they play slow. They don't score a lot of points. They're not great defensively, but they just don't give up a ton. And so with him being significantly under it in 3 of the last 4 with 21, 26, and 22, I don't mind taking a shot on an under here. He hasn't hit 37 anytime recently, and the DVP matchup is tough, so that's kind of what I am going to go with. As always, feel free to subscribe down below. We're going to try to do more YouTube videos for player props and sports betting and daily fantasy sports if we find the time. I try to get at least 4 to 5 videos up a week. So feel free to subscribe, and good luck tonight, guys.